Colin, you need to unmute yourself and then you can go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our autumn gala in aid of child refugees, victims of war and of pandemics. I'm Colin Green. This is a very special event with good news and bad. The bad, to start with, is the global collapse of civil society with the pandemic and vicious wars, not least in Palestine and Ukraine, in which we have both worked for 40 years. The good news is that paradoxically, that has greatly enhanced the standing of IMET2000, particularly in Palestine. This is largely due to our CEO, Dr. Malik Zaben, taking up a very senior role in Palestine and running our projects from the front line in Gaza and the West Bank. His strong partnerships at ministerial level and setting up new clinical research activities is one main theme of the reports this evening. Many thanks to all of you donating so generously and joining us this evening, and to our generous sponsor, BB Energy. This is the second most important of our charity IMET2000 fundraising events of the year, and a showcase, I hope, of some of what we do in Palestine and Uganda. We want it to be enjoyable and fun too. We are so grateful to all guests who have joined from Palestine, and to Naomi Wimborne, Idrissi and Ken Loach, who have agreed to be interviewed or interview each other for their interesting lives, and to our loyal patron, Mark Thomas, and friend Imran Youssef. Our compere and host for the evening is Charles Phillips, who will now take over from me and spend a few moments on necessary housekeeping details so that the show runs smoothly. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Colin, for that introduction. I'm Charles Phillips. It's lovely to be here with you this evening. I'm going to be the host of the event. So my connection to IMET, I'm a long-standing trustee of a partner charity of IMET. So I've been supporting this charity, Firefly International, for a number of years. And I'm very lucky that Colin has invited me to host the evening for you today. So it's really good to be here. We have a fantastic show prepared for you, and I very much hope that you're going to enjoy. Most of you have attended IMET events before, but for those of you who haven't and are new to IMET, I'll just give you a quick rundown of what the charity is and why we're going to be here this evening. So IMET stands for International Medical Education Trust, and IMET is a small medical charity that supports medical initiatives and the training of health workers in Palestine and throughout the world. This evening, you're going to be hearing about our projects in Palestine, both in the West Bank and Gaza, and you'll also be hearing a little bit about a project that we're fundraising for in Uganda. It's going to be hopefully a very relaxed evening with lots of entertainment, different speakers, some wonderful music. So I really hope you relax and are comfortable at home and have a cup of tea and you enjoy. Yeah, hope you have a fantastic evening. It's my pleasure to introduce our IMET CEO, Palestinian neurosurgeon, Dr. Malik Zaben.
Thanks, Charles. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight on this very important fundraising event. Our first guest speaker is a close friend of IMET2000 and the voice of Palestinians, and actually the voice of justice in the United Kingdom. It is my pleasure to start this evening by introducing to you His Excellency, Dr. Hussam Zomlot, the Palestinian ambassador to the United Kingdom, to say a few words. Dr. Zomlot, the Zoom call is yours.
Thank you very much, my dear good friend, Dr. Malik Zaben, and all my friends here. It is definitely my pleasure. And good evening, everybody, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is really my pleasure to be with you this evening, and I am very happy to be speaking to you again. As you know, I am a big fan of IMET work. I think it is important, not just for Palestine, for any of the other countries in which the organization does invaluable work, but for the future, for closer international cooperation in medicine and generally, and for better healthcare for everyone. Before I get started, let me really thank the team of IMET2000, Malik Zabin, Professor Green, Colin Green, our good friend, Harriet Paul, and many others who make this important work possible and made tonight happen. Tonight, we are talking about a subject that is very close to my heart personally, refugees, and specifically child refugees. Now, many of you may not know this, but I grew up in a refugee camp to the very south of the Gaza Strip, in Rafah, to be specific. My childhood was spent running around the unpaved dirt tracks. I enjoyed them very much, by the way, and learning in small buildings, makeshift classrooms, and many shifts, by the way. There were 3 shifts every day of our. When I was treated in the camp clinic. I owe my education and my first professional experience to the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, UNRWA, without which I and millions like me would have been in a much more difficult situation. So I know what it is to be a child refugee. And I know how important it is for us to ensure that children, whatever their situation, can have access to decent healthcare and education. According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, that is the UNHCR, there are over 70 million refugees in the world today. 70 million. Let that sink in, my friend. Palestinians alone, we are 5.6 million refugees as it stands today. That is a lot of refugees. That is a lot of healthcare. It's a lot of schooling. It's a lot of money and aid, donation, funding. It's a lot of money in a world which seems to be running out of money, or at least out of will and care and compassion. Too many wars, too many epidemics. All the more reason then to double down on our efforts and commitments to the world's most vulnerable, to the children made refugees by wars, by want, and by disease. All the more reason also for us to double down on our efforts to find political solutions to what are ultimately and mostly man-made problems. Those are not natural disasters. They are mostly our own making, man-made problems. The world has grown more and more interlinked, my friends. We've seen that only the last 2 years with the corona pandemic. You could not just simply feel yourself and act as if this will not cross your borders. What we do here affects people elsewhere and vice versa. It's messy and it is complicated, my friend. But withdrawing back into ourselves, as many countries around the world seem to want to do, is not really the answer. It is not an answer. A connected world is or ought to be in everyone's interest, but it has to be a world in which rules apply to everyone, in which genuine efforts are made to rebalance some of the obscene inequalities we witness around us these days, and in which there is a sincere attempt to educate and learn and to care for even far-flung places as if they were our own. This is the experience our human family has had for all these years and centuries. Because in a way, we are interconnected, not in a way, in all ways. So IMET2000 brings these qualities to its work. I know that Palestinian doctors are not just thankful for the access to courses and training, resources that IMET makes possible, but are grateful also that our doctors for the opportunity to go out in the world and put their skills to the test in new environments, to meet and help other people. That way lies understanding and solidarity. two characteristics we seem to be sorely deficient in at this moment: the solidarity, the compassion, the togetherness. And for that, I applaud you, Professor Green, Dr. Zabin, and all of the team here. I do applaud you. May your work continue until it is no longer needed. And thank you for those efforts again and again. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Zumlot, for this, for your kind words and for being with us tonight. This is very inspiring and very uplifting talk. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next session of this evening. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are also so honored to present Dr. Amal Abu Muwais Oncology and Palliative Care Memorial Scholarship to Miss Abla, an outstanding nurse from the Unit of Oncology from Augusta Victoria Hospital in Jerusalem, to study at the University of Bethlehem. Dr. Amal, as some of you may know, was taken from us tragically and much too soon, as we lost her to cancer. As one family, we in IMET2000 recognized that the life of our patron, Professor Abu Muwais, and his family will never be the same again. But as we struggle with living our lives without Dr. Amal, we searched for ways to keep her memory alive. We thought about what meant the most to Dr. Amal and how she would want to be remembered. It is in this spirit that we in IMET2000 have established this scholarship in Dr. Amal's memory. Here's a clip documenting the launch of this memorial scholarship and a few words from our patron, His Excellency, Professor Abu Muwais, who is also currently the Minister of Higher Education and Research in Palestine. طبعا انا بدي الكلمه حتكون بصراحه احنا ايمينج انه يكون الموضوع انفورمال مع اوغستا فيكتوريا كلنا، يعني احنا بنعتبر نفسنا عائله واحده ملتمين لهدف وسبب واحد. ف طبعا Your Excellency Professor Abu Muwais and the family.
I am privileged to be standing here today, full of gratitude to your esteemed organization, IMET, for establishing this memorial scholarship to honor the memory of my dear wife, Dr. Amal Akil. Aside from being a supportive wife and a strong, caring mother, Amal was a truly empathetic and professional gynecologist, and believe that education is the gateway for human development and successful future. It really touched my heart when Dr. Malik called me to inform me that you have decided to attach the name of Amal to this scholarship. And on behalf of the Amal family and friends, we sincerely thank you for this great initiative. Indeed, education is a lifetime gift, and this memorial scholarship will keep the name and the legacy of Amal in our hearts and thoughts. Finally, I would like to pass our congratulations to Abla Abu Ayyash and wish her the best of luck.
Well, we want to say a big thank you to Professor Abu Mwais for his words there in that video. I would now like to introduce the IMET Board of Trustees Chair, Nick Maynard. And Nick is going to interview Malik about Malik's new appointment in Palestine at the Arab American University and Malik's work in neurosurgery. So Nick, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Charles. And it's a great pleasure to have the opportunity to interview Malik and just explore some more details about what he's doing. Malik, welcome, of course, and you're of course coming to us from Jenin this evening. And I guess the first thing to do is to congratulate you on your fantastic new appointment. And I think we'd all love to hear more about that. But perhaps before that, you could tell us about how things are at the moment on the West Bank.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks, Nick, for this opportunity for me to talk. Look, the situation at the moment is not great. Actually, it's a dire. We're going through a flare-up these days, and I don't know how much we get to know about that in our British media, particularly with the chaos going on in the country, probably not much, but the situation is difficult. There's a persistent uprise and struggle all along, the most of which probably is the traveling within like Palestine, particularly when you decide to travel from one town to town. And this affects in particular two systems, the education system and the health system. And like, for example, tomorrow or the day after, we don't know whether students are going to make it to the university. We don't know how many of our staff are going to manage to get through the checkpoints and come to the university. So that's from the education point of view. Same thing in the hospital. I was running a clinic last week and a couple of patients could not make it simply because, I mean, they could not reach to the hospital. And likewise, my colleagues could not get to the workplace. So as it stands, it is very difficult, but I must tell you and send the message of the Palestinian people that we are strong, we are hopeful, and we always looking for justice and peace.
Thank you, Malik, and it's wonderfully reassuring to hear you say those words.
Yes.
Now, we'd like to hear more about your new job. Can you tell us about your new position at the Arab American University of Palestine, and particularly about your remit with Palestinian medical education?
Thank you. So, I mean, it was an interesting position to start with, and I have. I'll be honest, I've accepted that with lots of reluctance. I mean, living in the UK for almost 20 years and coming back home here, it is a big, advance. People would say downgrade in the quality of life, let alone the risk of life and all the difficulties I've just been talking about. So, but after discussing with a few mentors, and it has always been right in the back of my mind that at some point, I'd like to come back to my home country and serve my own people. And I've been looking for this opportunity, and I got appointed as a president advisor at the Arab American University, which happens to be in Jenin, an area which is very much less privileged than other areas in Palestine. The catchment area of the School of Medicine for which I am responsible and I am in charge of actually is not only the area of Jenin, but also extends to the refugee camps, to the Bedouin community, which is close by here in Jenin. And that those things kind of just were among the attractive things of when I was thinking about the position. And being here for a couple of months, almost a couple of months now, I've started learning a lot about what we can do. And to you and to our colleagues on the call, look, the demand is massive, but again, there's lots of potential for us to achieve on multiple levels, like from an education point of view, from clinical services and health services point of view, but also from a clinical research point of view.
Thank you, Malek. And I think you'll know that how unbelievably proud we are all at IMET for what you've achieved and your new position. I think it's fair to say we all had slightly mixed feelings, because not least because we were concerned about the impact on IMET, but of course you've reassured us about that. But I'd love you now to perhaps tell us about your ongoing role in Cardiff, because I know you will still have a role in Cardiff, and perhaps your plans to develop and strengthen links between Palestine, the UK, and indeed other countries in the West.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I'm 10 years in Cardiff, and it is, I don't know, the first home. It's good. You get mixed feelings about these things. And I've built my own research and my own interest in neurosurgery, but also in stem cell biology. So building on those foundations, I'm going to continue my work in Cardiff on honorary contract basis. And we're going to develop a revolving door strategy through which we build partnerships between UK universities, Cardiff is an example, and Arab American University, but also other institutions here in Palestine. And through this door, we're hoping to exchange students, exchange experience, staff, and above all, get the benefit to the communities in the United Kingdom, but also in Palestine and the rest of the world in terms of our stem cell research, which is, I must share with you my ambition for that. It is very promising area of research in which we are delivering stem cell therapy to the brain of people struggling with common problems, really, such as Huntington disease, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease. So all these under the remit of our work, but also I've got my own interest in a much commoner disease, which is those who live with dementia secondary to traumatic brain injury. So it's all very promising. And this is where I would like to kind of keep those links and those ties with the UK for the benefit of our communities, but and the rest of the world.
Okay, thank you, Malek. Now of course, you're a very talented and experienced neurosurgeon, and you're leaving a post in Cardiff to take up this post in Palestine. I understand you still have a significant clinical role in Jenin, won't you? So could you tell us about some of the clinical aspects of your neurosurgical life in Jenin?
Thank you. I am basically continuing my experience in Cardiff, but just in another place. So in the last 5-6 years, I've been academic in neurosurgery, where I had half of my week, my life is split between the hospital and my lab in the university. And this is going to continue here, except that probably I'm going to focus a little bit more on admin aspects. The clinical aspect of the job is the bit which is touching me very deeply. And I've run a few clinics now. Very exciting. It's just, you could see it on the faces of people who needed, without making myself sound like I am a wow guy, but neurosurgery in Palestine is under it needs a lot of work. It's not developed. We don't have that expertise. And I'm hoping really to be able to bring in my expertise from the UK for the benefit of the patients. I've seen interesting cases, which I could tell already we're making difference there, but also not only for the patients, but also my colleagues. There's a lot of willing here for people to learn and collaborate. And I'm hoping to start building a team and together really see what sort of difference we could make to the lives and the quality of lives of our people here in Palestine.
Well, I'm sure they're incredibly lucky to have you. So congratulations to you. So many, many thanks, Malik. I think our time is up. Congratulations on your new role. And we are delighted for you, proud of you, and of course, mightily relieved that IMET is still a very, very high priority for you. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you, Malik. It's really good to hear from you, Malik, in more detail about what you're doing. And we'll be hearing from Malik a bit more later this evening. And we'll also shortly be showing you a video on what the IMET team in the West Bank have been up to over the past 6 months. But right now it is time for some entertainment. So I would like to introduce the well-known stand-up entertainer and great friend of IMET, Imran Yusuf. Imran, we have around 8 minutes for you in this section, so it is over to you.
Great. Good evening. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. I hope you're getting this sound and image all right. And if it's possible, I'd like to invite you to unmute yourselves just for my set, because in case you find any of this funny, please do laugh. Otherwise,
he wants to hear people laugh. Yay!
Any heckles, please keep to yourself.
We'll heckle.
Awesome, great. So guys, first of all, good evening to you all. I mean, I know there's so many people here from a number of different backgrounds and professions, from comedians, obviously activists, doctors, and even Mossad, who are definitely watching this. We know we know you're watching, and you're welcome to be here. Shalom. Right? I'm also really glad that IMET have got a project in Uganda, which is the country that threw my parents out in 1972. After which their economy collapsed, and then they called us back, and we were like, "No, we're making white people money now. We'll see you later." My mom became pregnant with me much later, and she went back to East Africa to give birth to me in Mombasa because she knew that as she got older, she would become more right wing, and she didn't want me getting right. But I've got a British passport now, and no one's getting rid of me. And now with both Shitty Patel and Cruella Braverman out of the picture, I think. So now, as we all know, it can sometimes be really tricky navigating the area of supporting Palestine and ensuring that we're not facilitating any anti-Semitism, as there are many Jews and Israelis who wholly support bringing an end to the illegal occupation and illegal settlements. And as many of us from a variety of different backgrounds and walks of life unite and find common interest in universal human rights and thus justice for Palestine, we slowly begin to unpick the political knots weaved over decades of injustice and violence. Now, Israel and Palestine is a very complex subject, fraught with intense views and the colliding claims on history, with many describing it as complicated. And complicated it may be, but Muggins here has to make it funny for the next few minutes, so bear with me, please. Right? Now, when I was a kid, about 6 years old, I found a book in the school library on Islam. I recognized this and I took it home to read and to show my parents. And fortunately, the school didn't call Prevent like they would these days. Now, I remember that my mum was quite happy and she explained my religion to me, and for the first and only time described to me who the Jews were. She said that Jews were like us. Yeah, us Muslims, because they believe in Moses, and we also believe in Moses. And so we are also allowed to eat their food. Muslims eat halal, Jews eat kosher, and Muslims can eat kosher provided there is no alcohol, but Jews cannot eat halal because kosher is far more strict in how it's prepared. You have to have a divided kitchen with separate utensils, milk and meat to milk in circumstances, an especially trained rabbi to oversee the whole preparation before he signs off on it as kosher, which is a great gig if you want to eat for free all day and get paid for it, right? So if you ever see a slim rabbi, you know he's not been specially trained. I grew up believing Jews were just another type of Muslim, and that although they wore similar little hats, theirs looked like they had shrunk in the wash because they've been trying to style it out ever since. Very glad. Muslims and Jews, we both love a circumcision, right? It's highly controversial these days, but it's a critical part of the faith and has been for hundreds of years. Maybe in modern times, we could opt for something like a loyalty card instead. But back then, So Israel and Palestine is mostly, but not exclusively, characterized by Judaism and Islam. Now, these are both ancient religions with many groups within them who've still got issues with sexism, racism, homophobia, and deeply held beliefs about hair and clothes. Now, be it wigs and curly sideburns to bushy beards and headscarves, neither side is going to be on a catwalk in Paris anytime soon. A furry strimal and a burqa would be ideal for everyone if we're going to survive the upcoming winter, the tourism. Now, over here in the UK, I've tried to build bridges with the Jewish community and the variety of Jewish organizations that are engaged in community work. And although we are able to talk and get along, it's definitely a concern within the Jewish community to be wary of outsiders because of their history of being persecuted. So building trust takes time. And one of the more prominent political ideas that's being shared in this space is for the British government to formally recognize the state of Palestine. I think it's a good idea, but which could alarm Israel and its relationship with Britain. But they can rest assured that they'll still have their exclusivity to the arms sales. I mean, Israel has all the drones to remotely fight children throwing stones, don't they?
Yes.
I thought it'd be funnier, but no, it was just a very serious point. Even though recognizing the state of Palestine won't officially consider it as a sovereign nation just yet, the value of the language is enormously provocative, as the use of language itself is very powerful. Now, Australia have been very brave, and they've officially chosen not to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which has upset them to no end. But which is quite right. As everyone knows, the capital of Israel is actually the letter I. Yet again, it is quite literally the English that has gotten involved here and made it controversial, right? Language is a very powerful weapon because Israel is also concerned with the efforts of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, abbreviated as BDS, and not to be confused with BDSM, which stands for the likes of bondage, dominance, and sadomasochism. IDF routinely engaging when they're committing their crimes, right? Shout out to the Israelis who refuse to join the IDF, because how better to protect the homeland than not to bully someone else in theirs. And finally, despite these horrors, the will for peace, the will for justice will prevail for Palestine and for Palestinians. It's a strong cause that stirs in the hearts of too many people across the world who will not stop speaking up for Palestine and for Palestinians. And I hope that we all are still alive to see what is eventually going to have to happen. An Israel and a Palestine, a space in which Israelis and Palestinians can live in harmony. But this means greater understanding and cooperation between the wider Muslim and Jewish communities. Only through sitting together and committing ourselves to a deeper and more loving relationship between our faiths, and thus between our people, can we achieve peace. But someone has to lead the way and be prepared to make an unprecedented sacrifice in order to establish a new bond between our peoples. And that is why today I offer myself to marry up 4 Jewish wives, right? Ladies and gentlemen, I am available. Yeah, we can make this work. If you're committed to peace like I am, you'll marry me. Yeah, otherwise. Now, according to the Quran, you need not change your religion. Where we can all not eat pork together, and we can chill in both Mecca and Jerusalem. That's a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah, good deal.
On day date under the handle halal, is it me you're looking for? On that awful pun, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. It's a great IMET. Continue doing what you're doing, and one way or the other, we're going to get there together.
Yay. Oh, great. Oh, Mark Thomas's comments is lovely.
Thank you so much, Imran. Lots of very wise words, and thank you very much for making us laugh. Please go ahead and use the chat, everyone. You can comment in there, you can leave some words of support and so on. So now on to an IMET project update. I would now like to introduce a video of IMET's work in the West Bank over the last 6 months. And in this video, you're going to see what the team has been up to in the areas of trauma and life support and child mental health. And you'll also see some recent scholarships that IMET has awarded. So I hope you enjoy. Well, it's great there to see the video of the work that the team have been up to. We are now going to have a quick comfort break. So we have around 5 to 6 minutes, and it's an opportunity for you to go and get a cup of tea, get up, walk around. And then after the short break, we are going to have some more entertainment. We'll have Mark Thomas speaking. We'll have an interview with filmmaker Ken Loach. We'll be playing some more music for you, and also giving a rundown of the projects that we're fundraising for this evening. And during the break, you're going to be hearing some Arabic music played by the Gaza branch of the Edward Said National Conservatory of Music. I hope you enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that wonderful music. That was a lovely recording and a really nice piece. A big thank you to all of the donations that have been coming in and that you've already provided. We're so grateful. And I'll share the Just Giving link again at the end of the evening, which is an opportunity for you to go and check out that page again. So now it's time for the second half of our evening. And it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the one and only Mark Thomas, who's going to be providing some entertainment for us now in this next section. So many of you know Mark from previous IMET events. Mark has been a supporter and patron of IMET for many years. He is an exceptional comedian, and we're very lucky to have him back with us this evening. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you ever so much, and thank you for coming back, everyone, and nice to see you all. Thank you for attending. It's brilliant. As you know, this is one of the most important events for IMET2000, and it's brilliant that you're all here. So welcome. Unless you're Tory, welcome. Welcome. By the way, if there are any, if there are any foreigners who are watching, and I know there are, can you just help us? Could you invade? Just help us. Something has gone so terribly wrong with our. We're on our third prime minister within a year, and we've only had one election. Because at first I thought we need to make an intervention. You know, we just need to intervene, possibly get them aside. You know, we'll get friends and family around and sit the Tories and sort of ambush them somewhere and go, look, okay, your drinking's affecting everyone, just stop it. And now I just thought, no, we need to get this before the UN. We need a vote. We need a UN vote. And actually, what I'm calling for is I think the EU should invade us. I think the EU should invade just to establish our sovereignty. That's what I'm actually calling for. I want some kind of sovereignty to come back through an invasion of the EU. Look, I say this with love. The Tory party is doing its best to destroy itself, but I'd really like them to go the whole hog this time. I'd really like them. Well, I want the Tory party so badly destroyed at the next election that they lose their deposits on their seats. I want them to lose their deposits on their seats.
Oh yes.
I want. There's some. Thank you, so my people.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose their deposit on the seats. I want them to lose to Count Binface and Lord Buckethead. I want each and every returning officer announcing the Tory results to start with the words, ouch. I want them to lose so badly that their donors ask for their money back. I want only fundraising they can get is Lee Hurst doing a meat raffle. I want the only blue rosettes to ever be given out from now on in to be losing 12-year-olds at gymkhanas. I want the word quasi-quartang only ever to be said as a safe word. I want all of them. Actually, I'll tell you what I want. I want young Tories forcibly to undergo conversion therapy and teenagers. That's what I want to see. And I want to see no Tories allowed in our toilets. I want Tory-free safe spaces. That's what we need.
Tory-free toilets.
Yeah, we need Tory-free toilets. Gender neutral, Tory-free. That's what we need. So that's my very modest proposal that I'm calling for. I can't believe we are where we are. I can't believe Boris coming back for a second go. It's like, oh, right. Boris Johnson actually thinks he is like Winston Churchill. He thinks they've sent him away and then it's all gone badly wrong and it'll be cool. But if Boris Johnson ever met Winston Churchill would shoot him dead. Mainly for being of Turkish origin, because Winston was quite the racist.
Yes, I'm just going to say.
Quite the racist, he really was. It is remarkable that we have got to this stage that he thinks he can make a comeback, you know. And this is, look at how Johnson we got rid of him first time round. Did Johnson go because he was venal, corrupt, lying, inept, lazy? And by the way, when you look at how suddenly Liz Truss just fell off the cliff, how badly she just did so quickly, you do think, oh, you know, God bless him, you know, Boris Johnson really was half-assed. I mean, I think, you know, if you look at what's happening with Truss, this is what would have happened if Johnson had concentrated, right? This is what would have happened if he'd put his mind and turned up for work. You see, this is the point about it as well. You think, how did we get rid of him? It was through Tory perversion. That was how it happened, because Chris Princher assaulted two men, because that bloke in Wakefield was found guilty of assaulting a child, because that bloke, the Tory MP from Devon, was watching pornography in Parliament. I promise you, the next election, you'll see the Tories going door to door. You think it's canvassing. It's not. By law, they have to tell you they're in the area. That's what it is. They are perverts and they have to tell you they're in the area. So I was thinking, you know, what if it, because this was the other thing, because Johnson is just absolutely remarkable. I always, for me, one of the highlights of Johnson was seeing him at the UN make a speech quoting Kermit the Frog from the Muppets, because many people fail to realise that the way to create international respect and dignity is through quoting children's TV theme music. Who can forget Nelson Mandela before the UN Security Council singing The Wheels on the Bus? Who can forget Fidel Castro doing the Wombles? La lucha continua, hasta la victoria siempre. Underground, overground, wombling free, the Wombles of Wimbledon common are we, making good use of the things that we find, the things that the imperious lackey running dogs of capitalism leave behind. Who can forget? Who can forget Yasser Arafat standing up there with a map of the Middle East? One of these things is not like the others. Who can forget that? So, Johnson, the thing about Johnson was, even when he didn't know the answer, which was quite often, at least he made upper class noises.
Yeah.
Do you know that he was Peppa Pig? But this Truss just stopped.
Yeah.
It was like she was buffering. I expected to see a little swirling circle in front of her, or Kevin Bacon to appear on stage and pick her up going, I think we can get better reception over here. She was remarkable. It was just like watching in front of the world's press. She stands there and she answers, she does that little tiny press conference. She asks 4 questions, gives the same answer, then looks at the audience and goes, It was like watching a sat-nav on a roundabout. She is absolutely remarkable. And before the conference, she was just incredible, because she stood there. I'm going to try and show you, right? Do you know, she stood there with her arms out like that, you know, at the conference speech, like which is not a natural pose. You don't, you know, it was like she was in the embarrassed Jesus pose. And I was thinking, this is not a natural pose. She actually looks like she's a dolphin waiting for fish for a backflip. That's what she looks at. What's that, Liz? You've been to the bottom of the ocean and you found the pound. This was an absolute remarkable. And this, let's look at what Liz Truss did in 1 month. She killed the Queen. First of all, she killed the Queen. Right? The Queen, right? I think the Queen just keeled over. Oh God, I don't want to meet you ever again. That's what actually happened. Right, so she killed the Queen, and then she destroyed the pound. Kwasi Kwarteng resigned after how many? 38 days, 40 days. I've known pears last longer. Pears, which is the automatic decay of fruit. That's the go-to thing. This is remarkable. She destroys the pound, inflation goes up, we've got the cost of government borrowing goes up, the mortgages go up, and this is every interview she does is a car crash. The IMF say you're an idiot. And, you know, the governor of the Bank of England turns proper sort of East End governor like, Liz, leave it. You've got to walk away, girl. And you just think this, even Putin was going, don't go near her. She is unhinged. Don't know what she could do. She could resort to nuclear weapon. No one knows. No one knows. And you just think this, I'm just waking up every morning thinking, what madness are we going to be waking? I turn on the news and expect to hear, bong, the Chancellor of the Exchequer swapped the pound for a rare Pokemon card. What's going on? Today, Liz Truss burnt Sussex. You know, bong, Matt Hancock said something and bizarrely we're covering it. You know, this is I genuinely am perturbed where we are. We are like this skip fire, a bin fire of rubbish. And this is the thing about it. I don't know if you noticed, because the idea was cut taxes for the rich in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Cut taxes for the rich, and then the poor will get rich because the rich have got more money and will give it away. I don't know if you noticed this, the day after the mini budget, the windows in Mayfair were being thrown open. Hundreds of people sticking their heads out shouting, you boy, go and get the biggest turkey in the shop. I don't know whether you noticed that. Absolutely remarkable. And then they turn around, you get those Tory MPs. And Theresa Coffey, by the way, she's dreadful. She just looks like a chain-smoking bagpuss. And she stands there and she said on the radio, well, the poor are much richer than you think. What? What do you want about it? They've got, what are you doing? They're always trying to have this undeserving poor. Like somehow the poor have got this secret hoard somewhere. Do you know what I mean? They're always the deserving poor, and Keir Starmer does it with Labour as well. By the way, if there are any Keir Starmer fans out there, let me hear you say.
No.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I've got the message. I was just going to say, let me hear you say. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing: is it was what was I talking about, by the way?
Keir Starmer.
What? No, before Starmer, I mentioned. Oh yeah, what they do is they always do this undeserving and deserving poor, and I'm just fed up. I want to see the undeserving rich. When are we going to see that on Question Time? When do we turn on the news and see someone on the Question Time panel just going, well, you can't give them tax cuts, they'll just spend it on ponies. When are we going to see that? So that's what I want to see. But this is the other, because they're all nuts, right? Because the Tory party, right, they want, well, you know, the poor people, you can make a meal out of 30p. No, you can't. No, you can't get for 30p. After that budget, you can't get 25p. Ridiculous. So the problem is the Tory party members got to choose, and the Tory party are essentially, Tory party members, what you need to know about them is essentially they're people who are obsessed with World War II, but undecided over who should have won.
And the Empire.
Right.
And the Empire.
Yeah, indeed, the Empire was part of that. Thank you for walking over the punchline.
Sorry.
No, that's lovely. Do a Zoom gig. Don't get heckled. What? Anyway,
You were saying.
no, it's great. We've turned it into a workshop already. This is absolutely remarkable. We'll all have to get together and have itemizing for change, and then we'll have a presentation. By the way, I want to show you. This is I want to show you because I've been looking at some of your walls and what you've got behind you, and this is what I've got behind me. I don't know if you can see that properly. That is it's a painting by the cartoonist Martin Rosen, and as you can see, he very kindly did that for me. It's a fur cup. It's a fur cup. Can you see that? He has lots of them in his in his cartoons, and so you get people on the comment pages going, oh, is that the government surrounded by fur cups? Which I think is a great pun. Anyway, the thing about this is, I was thinking about this whole what's happening with the Tory party, because they've like all look like survivors of a suicide cult, just the remaining ones. Do you know what I mean? And I think what they've done is they've just lurched further and further to the right at the behest of Tufton Street and all of that lot. And that was their whole agenda. That was their whole agenda with Brexit, I think, was just because it's very hard to turn around to people and go, vote for us. We want no regulation whatsoever. And we want to be able to drop excrement in the sea, right? You won't get many votes. But this is the thing that gets me, though, as they go further to the right and you have this whole big push. And that libertarians aren't for liberty, right? Under Tory laws at the moment, you can be arrested for being on a noisy protest.
Yeah.
A noisy protest.
Yeah.
That means the only people able to protest are mime artists. Mime artists. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. Not even the French who invented it. No one wants to see that. Right? The only people who can do that are them. Then, if you are actually on a noisy protest that's annoying and potentially disturbs someone's place of business, you can get the same criminal sentence as you can for rioting. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. Do you want to do it with a flat screen or without? That's simply what it comes down to. Now you've got this point where if you destroy a statue, you can get 10 years in jail. Statues have got more rights than living women. If you're a woman, you're walking home late at night, you feel under threat, your best bet, stand completely still, dress as Queen Victoria. That is your best, your best bet. Now, let me also just, I'm aware, I don't know how much time I've done. I've just got sort of rambled at you, really.
Yeah, Mark, if you can draw to a close.
Pardon?
If you can draw to a close, we have to go to the next thing.
All right, okay. Okay, well, the set's about an hour.
Go for it.
What I was going to tell you is just this, is look, because they're lurching to the right, they always have to do this. I'm going to do more Rwanda. And everyone knows the Rwanda policy is immoral, it is illegal, it is the state normalization of cruelty, and what it does is there to stoke up their racist base. Everyone knows that, and the biggest sign that you can see people know it is the fact that not one British airline will take the job. Not even Ryanair will take the job. Not even, mainly because they land in Kenya. And you'd have to get the bus to Rwanda. But
Yes.
this is the thing about it, is I know that you know this, right? The British government paid 120 million to the Rwandan government to run the scheme. And for that, the Rwandan government have said they would take 200 people. 200, that's £600,000 per asylum seeker and refugee. Which is outrageous. And yet part of me can't help thinking, fair play, Rwanda, really. If I was the Rwandan government, I'd get all the asylum seekers and all the refugees and go, right, here's a ticket to Paris in a dinghy. Let's run this one more time. So, look, thank you for having me. And it's always a pleasure to see you. It's lovely to see everyone here. And thank you for coming and supporting IMET.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much, Mark. And I think next time we need to definitely allocate an hour to you. So Colin, that's a note for next time. Let's give more time to Mark. Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. So we have to move on. Our next item is a pre-recorded video of two big IMET supporters. The first is actually on the call with us right now, the well-known humanitarian writer, broadcaster and activist, Naomi Wimborne-Idrisi. And the second is famous filmmaker Ken Loach. And we've had Ken on for previous events. So in this video, Naomi is going to be interviewing Ken about his films and his strong interest in Palestine. And Naomi starts the interview asking Ken about his 2006 film, The Wind That Shakes the Barley. And that film is about the Irish War of Independence. And then Ken goes on to talk about his interests and connections in Palestine. Just before we start the film, because Naomi's on the call, Naomi, if you want, I'll ask you to unmute yourself and you can just say a quick 10-second hello and then we'll play the video.
Oh, that would be a pleasure, Charles. This has been a tremendous evening. I'm here with my friend, and we're actually in a B&B in Kent at the moment. But it's a wonderful, wonderful evening, and you've got some fantastic people working for IMET, doing wonderful things. And of course, your two comedy guests are fantastic. Mark Addison Stitches there. So it was a pleasure to talk to you, Ken. And I know you've got more film of us talking than you have time for tonight. So maybe you'll be able to release a bit more of it at some point.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's play that film.
Why did you choose to make Wind That Shakes the Barley in 2006 particularly? There must have been some context.
We decided we'd try to tell the story of the pivotal moment in the relationship between the two countries, the War of Independence, and then the civil war that followed it, in which Britain supported one side. And the fundamental point, I think, that came out of it, we wanted to come out, was that the relationship between Britain and Ireland is a colonial one. The British ruling class colonized Ireland back in the early Middle Ages, and that relationship continued until 1920. When Ireland won the War of Independence, partially, and the British, in which Churchill played a significant part, insisted on the division of Ireland in the interest of the loyalist minority in the north. And that division has plagued Ireland for the last century. The partition was maintained at the point of a gun. And so to tell the story of that pivotal moment seemed to us really important.
Apparently you don't even call action or cut at the beginning and end of scenes.
No.
So how do you let it happen in front of the camera so effectively?
Well, it's simpler than it sounds, really, Naomi. As you say, you bring together a group of people who will invest in what's going to happen, who care about it from the point of view of the characters as far as possible. It's a long process, but essentially it's very simple. You find people who will, the audience will believe in, who care about it, and who will express it with passion and clarity. Paul's script is central to that. And there's a degree in which people can bring their own words to it. And very quickly that falls into a pattern. And the camera and the sound are like observers, not cold-eyed observers, but observers with who have a solidarity and an empathy with what is happening. So that determines the light, so that you photograph people to reveal their humanity rather than looking at them as sort of specimens, as sometimes happen. It refers to the lens, which again should be like a human eye, not like a kind of very wide angle or like a telephoto. And put that together, and it seems, well, if it doesn't work, you change it. In the end, it's only film, and if you get it wrong first time, try again. But it's simpler than it should be a simple process. If you've done the preparation, it's like gardening. The answer's in the soil. If you do the preparation right, the flowers will flourish.
The latest one is I, Daniel Blake. But my question really is, how do you set about telling stories like theirs using a mix of professional actors and real people so that they really kind of leap out of the screen at the audience?
Well, I mean, it's kind of you to put it like that. I mean, the starting point is always the script, and this for Paul, because I mean we are a team. It's never an individual, and the starting point for Paul and for me, but Paul does it mainly, is the research. So you've got to know that what you put on screen is true. The characters are fictional, but they represent the truth of people's lives. And we heard the story of a young woman who was so hungry at a Glasgow food bank that she couldn't wait to get home. Once there was food there, she stuffed it into her mouth, and out of desperation. And it is so. So for me for us as a filmmakers, then the challenge was to get that shock. So only Hayley, who was a wonderful actress, Hayley Squires, only Hayley knew that she was going to open the can and put it in her mouth. Nobody else in the food bank knew. The cameraman knew, and the recordist, obviously. So we prepared the shot and the surrounding action and furniture, so that the natural place for her, when the woman found that she was doing it, brought her forward to her seat, which I knew would make we knew would make a good frame. So in a way, the analogy I've used before is that it's a bit like cutting a channel for water to run downhill. You don't tell the water that's where you've got to run, but you create the circumstances in which it will, with a bit of luck, unless it goes horribly wrong, it will happen that way. And for something like that young woman, hunger driving her to that desperate, humiliating act, for that to work, there had to be a sense of shock in the room. You can't rehearse that. So you only get it once. So it's like walking a tightrope without a safety net, really. And you prepare it. Everyone knows those who need to know what's going to happen. The others don't. And you just hope it works.
Is it conscious about this showing the humanity of all characters, or is it not, or does it just come out that way?
No, well, it's essential. I mean, in a way, I mean, films aren't propaganda, and fiction films, they're not polemic. I mean, they're about dilemmas and choices, and how people's lives are, the choices we have and the people we become, that's determined by the economic and political context in which we live. That determines the lives we lead, and the choices we have, and with a large measure of luck often.
Just shifting, we share a commitment to the Palestinian cause, as presumably most of today's audience do. And I wonder, are there any particular obstacles, for example, language, accounting for why you have not yet made a film about Palestine?
Well, it's an idea that's it just arisen over the last few years. I'm too old now, sadly. It would be a big, just the practical business of going to Palestine and working there and finding out the essential story to tell. And also I'd work with Paul Laverty. But it's a culture which I don't know the language. And to really find a way of working with people, you have to know their language, you have to know their culture. And I don't. And you know, at the ripe old age I'm at, it is beyond me, actually. I do hope many films are made. There are some very good Palestinian directors, and the essential story has to be told. It's beyond me now, but it's a story that is all the more urgent because the world turns its back and has turned its back.
Yes. And
the Palestinian people have lived under military occupation, illegal military occupation, their land stolen, their houses destroyed, their daily lives made impossible since 1948. And the world has turned its back. And people say, why are you obsessed with Palestine? Because the politicians will not speak. That's why. So it's down to civil society to speak. And there is the great quotation and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember who said it or the exact words, but evil thrives when good people stay silent. And if that is true of anything, it's true of Palestine. And that's why I'm really so pleased to know that the organization that we're speaking for now has brilliant schemes to deal with child mental health in Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank. And if you think it's not only the children, but it's the previous generation and the generation before that has been oppressed, that has been living under these intolerable situations. I've just seen their daily lives wrecked, time after time after time. that's such an important charity and such an important project to support. And I hope people listening to our ramblings will support that, as well as support for the Bedouins and other people with nothing, living in poverty, and the project in Uganda as well, because I know the work is worldwide. So all those projects, really, please support them. Please support them, because it's easy for us to talk. Making films is a doddle. Raising money for these, it is raising money for these issues, and being in that situation is desperate. So I know we're both really pleased to be here and say what we can to support that.
Yes, absolutely, Ken. It would be wrong of us to just confine ourselves to chatting about the politics of Palestine and so on, because we've got to address the tremendously valuable practical work that IMET is doing, not only in Gaza, but among the Bedouin and other parts of the world, Uganda in particular. And I know you've been talking to Colin about that. So I totally support what Ken's just said, everybody, about giving the fullest support to Colin and the IMET team. Thank you very much, Ken. And thank you to everybody here. And I hope that we have a really successful event tonight for IMET and all its great work. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi.
Thanks so much there to Naomi and to Ken. It was really, really lovely to hear that discussion, and we're very, very lucky to have both of them speaking for us. So we need to keep moving on, and we now have a recording of Palestinian singer Wafa Najili, who's going to be singing an Arabic song called Blackbird. Wafa is a nurse by training, and she's recorded this video for us from Gaza. And after we play this video, you'll be hearing from Malik, who's going to introduce one of our project videos from Gaza. And in very good news, you'll also be hearing from Mark again, who's going to be involved in the discussion about the different projects that we're raising money for. But for now, I hope you enjoy this video.
عصفور عم بغني بنص الليل بجناح صغير كتير بحاول يطير طول حياتنا نستنى اللحظة اللي فيها بكرة عشان نصير عصفور عم بغني بنص الليل عيونه مغمضة بس نفسه كمان يشوف طول حياتنا نستنى اللحظة اللي فيها بكرة عشان نطير عصفور نفسه يطير عصفور نفسه يطير حتم الليل بعده صغير عصفور عم بغني بنص الليل بجناح صغير كتير بحاول يطير طول حياتنا نستنى اللحظة اللي فيها بكرة عشان نصير عصفور عم بغني بنص الليل عيونه مغمضة بس نفسه كمان يشوف طول حياتنا نستنى اللحظة اللي فيها بكرة عشان نطير عصفور نفسه يطير عصفور نفسه يطير حتم الليل بعده صغير.
Malik, over to
Thank you. Thanks, Wafa, for this very nice piece of music. And it was really, although the music may have sounded a bit sad, but it is, I can tell you in translation that this is very uplifting and very moving music. So moving on, really, it gives me pleasure to now share with you another story of IMET2000 in Palestine, which is this time coming from the other side of Palestine. It is from Gaza Strip. In the next clip, we're going to see what's our team, led by Mohammed al-Sharif, have been up to helping the kids of Gaza, particularly those who are and were victims of conflict and those who struggle with post-stress and post-trauma stress kind of conditions, and see what we in IMET2000, with your funding and with your support, have been doing in the last few months. So let's watch this clip together.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our fundraising event today. We are bound to have been working with the traumatized children for 4 years now. We have provided much needed psychological services to hundreds of children and their caregivers. We have success stories to share with you. However, the need remains massive. Our services are structured as their significant need by many children for psychological support, participately with increases in significant short age. To meet children mental health, there are Gaza due the current situation, challenges, difficulties they're experiencing in Gaza. Mohammed al-Sharif, Director of Children Mental Health Center in Gaza.
Hello everyone. I am a Palestinian Hidayah, aged 14 years old, living in Gaza. I hope you get the voice of Palestinian children from Gaza while you're fine. We're Gaza kids. We're not okay. We have not felt calm or peaceful in our lives in Gaza. We pray for peace, but unfortunately, we lose one of our friends, and we are in every war coming to Gaza. We are exposed to violence in all forms, and we always live in an anxiety, tension, and fear of the future, and we have no place of security that keep us or protects us from the next danger. Are experiencing difficulties and challenges, a difficult economic situation, poverty, inequality, education, free and safe, and poverty, integrated health, services, and others. We look forward. We are experiencing difficulties and challenges from a difficult economic situation, poverty, inequality, education, free and safe travel to the outside world, and poverty, integrated health, services, and others. We look forward for beautiful life, and we dream of living like the children of the world in freedom and security, and of having a safe place to play and go to any time to enjoy life. We love life and hope to live in peace and tranquility, and we have a great ambition and dreams to pursue and build a beautiful future. Help us sustain our center to help us live a decent life. Thank you so much for hearing our voice, Hidayah.
Wow, thank you so much to the team in Gaza. That was just such a lovely and uplifting film. And I know that the centre in Gaza does such fantastic work. So thank you so much to the team. We're really lucky to have Mohammed, who you saw in the video, on the call with us this evening. So please do feel free to use the chat, all of you, and share messages of support. Mohammed's here, and I'm sure he'd love to hear some messages. Also in that video, you saw the 3 different logos at the bottom, and those are the different partners of the project. So along with IMET, there's Firefly International and there's Action for Child Trauma International. So that's a quick shout out to the great partners who are helping. I now would like to introduce a speaker, and we're very lucky to have Dr. Hassanan Al-Tayyar, who is a forensic psychiatrist at Oxford University, and he's one of IMET's trustees. And Hassanan is chief advisor for IMET's global mental health program, and he's kindly agreed to say a few words about mental health needs in Palestine. After Hassanan speaks, you'll be hearing from Colin, who's going to be introducing a project video about Uganda. But now we'll hear from Hassanan.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thanks for the nice introduction. Thanks everyone for the great work that everyone is doing in supporting our people in Palestine. I'm Hassanan Al-Tayyar, forensic psychiatrist based in Oxford, and I'm also one of the trustees in IMET2000, originally from Iraq, but I've been to Palestine multiple times, and I would love, and I will go again. I mean, sharing the news of the great successes in Palestine, Uganda, and other places where people are dedicating their time, their effort, their resources, teaching and training and supporting other people in need. I also look after the Asian side of IMET2000. So I've been to North India, to the Tibetan refugee camps, people who are in exile from Tibet to North India. And there is a huge, huge need. As you heard earlier in the videos, I mean, these communities, these places, these countries are traumatized due to centuries of military conflicts and military assaults, and they will undoubtedly leave people with lots of psychiatric comorbidities, post-traumatic stress, chronic personality changes, lots of psychiatric and mental health issues. So people need our support and need our help. I was always impressed by the dedication and the caring attitude of people in Palestine, especially in these specialist centers which train and look after people and children with mental health difficulties, autism, learning disability, ADHD, and other neurodevelopmental disorders. And they work in extremely hard conditions, very under-resourced, and they dedicate their time and effort to manage and to treat and to help these children and families. So they really need your support and your help. I have no hesitation at all to recommend the IMET2000 programs and ask the audience to give as generously as you can. Lots of programs in terms of mental health support. We are supporting around 40 children every year in Palestine, people with intellectual and learning disabilities, physical disabilities, mental health conditions, autism. We train health professionals, doctors, nurses. We've trained more than 3 or 4 doctors in different specialties, mainly in mental health and psychiatry, people who are trained in Jordan, and many of them have finished their training in Qatar. People have come here. One of them is actually on duty now, Mohammed Ubaidullah, who joined from the A&E department in Bournemouth Hospital. He's doing his GP training here, and he was the IMET medical education officer. So welcome to you. We're training doctors and nurses in the field of research methodology to become trainers to enhance lifelong training. And in Gaza, I've always wanted to go, but due to clearances and issues, there were some obstacles to my input there. But we work with other partners through our mental health child health center and care for children who suffered over the years with multiple traumatic experiences from the Israeli military conflicts and the assaults. And around, I think 20 cases of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, get referred to these centers every week. So you can see the huge, the impact. I mean, the building capacity is a very big topic. So we have, like in Palestine, very few number of psychiatrists, probably 50, which look after around a population of 5 million people. You can't compare it to a population, well, to what we have now here in the UK. You have 9,000 psychiatrists and doctors only who look after a population of 60 or 65 million. So there is a huge need, and there is it's a very deprived, under-resourced area. And any help, any support in that respect will always be greatly appreciated. So great to be here today, and great to be part of the IMET2000. And thank you very much for being here. I hope I kept to the time limit. So
yeah, you did. Thank you so much, Hasnan.
Cheers, thank you.
Now it's over to Colin.
Oh, thank you very much, Charles, and thank you, Hasnan, for helping us with he's one of our trustees, and like all the other trustees, he actually does something. I think I've said this before. He actually goes out and helps us and sees what's happening, and then can advise us what we should be supporting. I have got one film about Uganda, which I want you to see. It runs for about 7 or 8 minutes, but it really tells you a lot about it. It's homemade. All our films are homemade on cameras, our own cameras, and they're very amateurish, but they actually tell the story, I think, better than a professional would. So I just hand over to Jojo and show you this film. Thank you.
Since Verona Hospital opened in 2017, it has developed very quickly with the support of IMET2000 under the guidance of Dr. Henry Garvin and its dedicated staff. Since opening, Verona has expanded to a 50-bed hospital with 2 operating theatres and an X-ray department. 2 of the most effective projects IMET2000 are supporting at the moment are outreach and cataract surgery. This is Katosi on the shores of Lake Victoria, Uganda. It was the first site of Verona Hospital's weekly outreach, supported by IMET2000. With their fully equipped ambulance designed to cope with rugged terrain, IMET2000 are making it possible for Verona Hospital to get to remote areas where there is little or no health care. In June 2022, Verona Hospital held a very special eye camp for over 200 albinos. They were given eye tests and, when necessary, reading glasses. We would like to continue with this healthcare by giving them more eye tests, treatment and sunglasses. In 2021, IMET2000 started sponsoring cataract operations at Harona Hospital. Since then, over 100 operations have been completed successfully. These operations cost around about £120, all carried out by a Ugandan doctor.
My name is Dr. Susan Chira. I'm an ophthalmologist and retired. Today we worked at Harona Hospital, where we came to carry out surgery on cataracts. Cataract is an opacity in the lens. It results in the patient not being able to see, and it's the commonest cause of reversible blindness worldwide. In Uganda, we have about 40 active ophthalmologists, but our cataract surgery rate is still very low, so we have a backlog of more than 100,000 cataracts, which increase with every year. Today, we operate patients. We use the method of small incision cataract surgery, and we implanted intraocular lenses after doing biometry. We expect our patients to do very well, and tomorrow we expect their visions to be much better than when they started.
Sinakulabaho ddwaliro ddala ate n'embeera neeteba mbi okumanya omuntu owawaasi engula abalala obasiŋŋaana n'abamu abategeera. Nasanyuka nnyo era nasiima nnyo neŋŋamba nti bannange mwebali kutudduukirira okutuwa obuyambi okufaanana nga bwe kubanga nga nze bwenfaanana era nga bwemulaba wewiswa kasente naali kajeewa.
News is spreading far and wide about these operations at Harona Hospital. Like this bus of 28 patients had travelled over 100 miles to ask for help. This is why it's so important for IMET2000 and Harona Hospital to continue these life-changing operations. Harona Hospital continues to help the community and individuals in many other ways, like for instance the Julie Felix Maternity Unit, where over 860 babies were born last year. The doors of Harona Hospital had only been open 6 months when this grandmother brought a very sick grandchild to the hospital. She's HIV positive. Her daughter, the mother, had died in childbirth. The grandmother has been looking after the child ever since, and we're now very happy to say that she's part of our Triumph programme, which pays her school fees, and she's now started school. This is Harriet, who we've been looking after for over 10 years. This year she became critically ill, but we are very lucky to have Harona Hospital who've been able to care for her and bring her back to good health. She's still recovering, but doing very well.
Peace is a river and it's growing, moving through the mountains, headed for the sea. It's the peace in you.
This was Harona Hospital just 4 years ago. And this is Harona Hospital now. We're grateful to all of those who have supported the hospital's rapid development. And with your support and collaboration, Harona Hospital can go on to help many, many more people.
Hi, this is Harriet from Ebenezer Children's Home. I would like to thank IMET2000 for building Harona Hospital. They treated me very well when I was very sick. Thank you so much.
Wow, so lovely to see that video. And thank you, Colin, very much for introducing it. And thanks also to Richard Field, who is IMET's coordinator for the Uganda project. And there's such important work happening there. We're going to hear a bit more about the Uganda project in the next item that we have. And I would like to invite Malik and Colin to come back on screen, and also Mark Thomas. And the three are going to be talking about the different projects that we've been giving an introduction to this evening. And we'll be talking more about the different needs that we have. So over to you, Malik.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks everyone for staying with us up until now. I mean, it's getting, I know, probably late for some of us. So we'll try to wrap up this bit, although this is the most probably important bit to IMET and to the people in Palestine and Uganda. It is us appealing to the three projects, key projects we are fundraising for tonight. The first project is the Child Mental Health Project. We've shown in some of the activities we run with other partners in Gaza. This is basically a center, a specialized center. We have a psychiatrist alongside a social worker and 3-4 other psychologists. We see a number of cases each week. All are victims of war and conflict. The problem we have there that the number of cases and the demand and the number of referrals we are getting from other centers is on the increase. And to cope with that, we need to increase the number of hours that our staff are putting in, or increase the number of staff we have. And we can't do this without your help. So I'm asking for your generosity on this project to help us expand this service with our partners in Gaza. Moving on to the second project, it's this project, which actually I've only found about through Colin, and after I landed here, that the Bedouin community here in Palestine, particularly down in the valleys, only a few kilometers from where I'm talking to you today, got very short on doctors, nurses, but also vets as well, which is very relevant to health when we talk about food security, and it's all interconnected stuff, as many of you would agree with me. So what we are hoping to do here, and through my position at the Arab American University, we're looking for your help and support to and donations to offer scholarships, particularly for female students to become doctors, to serve their communities, particularly these less privileged communities. And we are choosing them to come from the same community that they're going to serve, because we think this is a sustainable way of doing it. I do hope you agree with us. I do hope you would support us on this project as well tonight and afterwards. The link is available. The Just Giving link is still alive. So please go hit the button and support us on those two projects. And I'll hand over to Colin to expand on the third project in Uganda. Colin, it's over to you.
Thank you, Malik. IMET2000 has established, as we've seen in the film, a modern eye clinic in Rona Hospital. It's taken us 3 years really to get it off the ground. It's serving a population in Bukona district of over 600,000 regular outreach clinics, which I'm very keen on, both in Uganda and Africa and Asia and in Palestine. They go to the extremely poor villages within a 60-mile radius, roughly, offering a comprehensive service in visual impairment. You saw the clinic we ran for albino children with severe sight problems. Those poor children have a terrible life with skin cancers and near blindness frequently, and terrible itching of their skin and of their eyes most of their life. It's a horrible condition. Most of those seen that we see are near blind, needing cataract surgery. Again, you saw that bus coming in. Some of those people are totally blind and not reversible, but those which have got a cataract, and we can operate on that, they become totally different people, having had their blindness reversed. We're carrying out about 30 cataract operations every month at the moment, we still have a waiting list of some 400. Many of them, they're not all old people that you've seen on the screen. Many of them are infants and older children, and there's a whole range of reasons why they get cataract problems. The program has been extremely successful. In fact, the word has spread that IMET2000 is offering these life-transforming operations at no cost to the patient, so the waiting list grows despite our best efforts to reduce it quickly. What I'm hoping for from today, and already we've had a wonderful donation this evening from one of our trustees, which would allow us to increase the numbers done by 40 people. That's 40 people who would be blind for life. That donation is sufficient for 40 people, and that's amazing. If we could get a bit more this evening, that would be, we could get up to operating up to 50 a month. And then in a 12-month period, we could clear that backlog. Before I finish my own talking for this evening, I want to say a big thank you to Malik, his family and his team in Ramallah. They're quite extraordinary people and Palestinians of the highest order. I also want to thank Mohammed Al-Sharif and his team in Gaza, another extraordinary group of people. And that makes me proud as a British person to be able to support them. They're well worth supporting, and I hope you will support them this evening. To Harriet Paul for organizing this event. Without Harriet, there's no way we could organize these things. She's absolutely crucial to our running of these things. I've got to thank too Madeleine Haytham, who I think is in the audience, I hope, who has just completed the York Marathon for IMET2000. Again, for child mental health, and a considerable sum of money running over 26 miles. And to our celebrity entertainers this evening, Mark and Imran, wonderful, thank you so much. To our great compere, Charles Phillips, to our wonderful Board of Trustees, the best I've ever worked with in 60 years of working in charities. And finally, to all of you joining us this evening and helping us raise a substantial amount to fund this work. Thank you so much, all of you. I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Colin, can I ask you a question very quickly? Yes. Which is, given the perilous state of the pound, would the donations be better off in dollars?
I think that's rather difficult because we have a bank account in pounds and not in dollars.
Okay.
And as you say, most of in Uganda and in Palestine, we have to send out dollars or convert our pounds that we're donating into, and so the change in the exchange rate has made a phenomenal difference. I'm hoping to raise our funding this year because of Malik's increased importance in Palestine by 30%. But the reality now is that this exchange rate has altered our need to bring in more than 30% because of the exchange rate fall. So the most recent week problems have multiplied our problems enormously.
The other thing I was going to say, and I just wanted to add this in, Malik, was for me, the Child Mental Health Project, the thing that really brought it home for me was, do you remember when we did the boat? Do you remember your lovely boat?
Yeah.
Right. I remember being on that boat before the show started, and we were putting some stuff out, and it's all full of Jolly Jack tars and sailors and things like that. One of them came up to me and just went, "It's Mark Thomas, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I was out in whatever, I've forgotten where it was. It was in some conflict region." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, we're doing this fundraiser, and part of the money goes towards children's mental health in Gaza and in the West Bank." And he said, the best thing that I've ever heard for someone to explain it all. He said, that makes a lot of sense, because basically, if you're near something that goes bang, it don't half hang around.
Oh,
The simplest way to explain it.
Yes, yeah, no, it's I don't know that it's all very sad, and these kids are very traumatized. It's just the good thing. I mean, in the video, we haven't had a chance to show some of the like true success stories. So we are making difference to these kids, and some of them were not going to schools, were not able to cope with anything, and now they're back to some normal life. they still live the memories of these bangs and all these disasters and these drones going by and all these explosions, or remember like a brother who kind of died on the roof in front of them and things like that. But you know, it does help. We work with our partners on modern therapies, which actually is proven successful, and it does make a difference to the lives of these people and their families.
Well, if I remember correctly, that we had a conversation about this was a little while ago, about how children who are traumatized and have mental health issues because of conflict around them don't have a vision of themselves in the future. And actually that very basic thing of being able to see yourself in the future, of having a future existence, of having future hope, is a really crucial thing.
It is indeed. It is indeed. No question mark. You've just put it, like, I mean, in context, really. So yeah, it's just me conscious of the time. I think probably, I don't know, enough said on this one. Colin, do you want to advance?
No,
Mark?
Thank you, Mark. We better move on now. There's lots of questions I'd like to ask Malik and you. One thing I did want to say was that today I saw a report where the settlers have actually moved into Ramallah, which is supposed to be virtually the capital of Palestine, and have moved into a residential area to break it up, escorted by the army, and just run riot. So it's incredibly dangerous out there now for Malik and his team. And I just keep keeping my fingers crossed that we can keep going and do good work out there. So thank you both, Malik and Mark. I think we must move on. We're running over time now.
Thank
Charles,
you.
over to you quickly.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, Colin, and thanks also to Malik and Mark. So we've had a couple of questions in the chat, and we are recording the event this evening, and we will be putting it on YouTube. So we'll be sending that around in the coming days, so you can watch all of the videos again that you've been seeing this evening. Also, we had a question in the chat about the Just Giving page. That's already been posted in there, but I will also just put that again in the chat. So please go to that page if you would like to donate, and you can also contact Harriet, and I put the email there in the chat for you. So to move on, and before we draw the evening to a close, we have another piece of music from the Edward Said National Conservatory of Music from the Gaza branch. And this is around 3 minutes long, and then we'll start to draw things to a close. So I hope you enjoy this.
حبه وسط الحاشا إن يشاء
Thank you so much to the students for that recording. That was a really beautiful recording and fantastic quality, and really nice to see some of Gaza there as well. And it's worth saying that IMET supports the students that you've just seen in the video with small grants whenever resources allow. And IMET very much believes that cultural support is an essential component of public health. So I would now like to reintroduce Nick, who you heard from earlier. We're coming to the end of our evening, and Nick, who's the chair of the IMET Board of Trustees, would like to say a few closing words. So over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Charles. And well, what a fantastic evening everyone has put together. Just a few thank yous. I'd like to thank Charles for hosting the event as brilliantly as you always do, Charles, and for keeping everyone to such good time. Thank you to His Excellency Dr. Zomlot for your kind words and wonderful support for IMET, and also to Naomi Winterborn-Idrissi for your fantastic interview with Ken Loach. And of course, we must thank Imran Yusuf and Mark, and our great patron Mark Thomas, for making us laugh so much. And it was a great idea to take us all off mute for that. It was fantastic to hear from Hassanan and Richard about their terrific work on child mental health and in Uganda respectively, both of them being great examples, as Colin describes, of trustees who get out there and really do things for IMET. And of course, thank you to everyone for attending tonight. It was a great number of people who were here. This is, of course, as we've heard from many people, a fundraising event, and IMET can only really do everything it does do as a result of the generous donations from all of you. You all know how to donate. On the chat, it's been put up several times, so there is no excuse not to go back on there yet again and donate more money. Finally, the big three. There are many people who do a lot for IMET, but frankly, all that almost, not completely, but almost pales into insignificance when compared to what Harriet, Malik and Colin do for this great charity. Events such as this evening simply wouldn't happen without Harriet, and we all owe her an enormous gratitude for everything she does behind the scenes to make these events such a great success. We've been hearing a lot about what Malik is up to, and we're all very excited by his new role in Jenin and what that will bring to many things, but also to IMET and to Palestinian medical education. Finally, the heroic Colin Green, who I'm sure I speak for all of us in saying he never ceased to amaze all of us with his energy, enthusiasm and achievements. IMET simply wouldn't exist without Colin, and he is, in every sense of the word, a really quite remarkable man. So as we close the evening, please let's have a massive online round of applause for Harriet, Malik and Colin. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Nick, for those closing words, and thank you everyone for being with us here this evening. I think it's been such a lovely event. I know that Colin, Malik and Harriet are so grateful for your continued support. We're going to close with a short piece of music, and then I'll unmute everyone and you can all say a quick hello to each other. So for our closing piece of music, we have Vangelis, Conquest of Paradise. Hope you enjoy and good night. Thank you, everyone. Good night.